When I was born, I single-handedly altered my entire family's medical history. Quite a feat for a one-day-old. I was diagnosed with autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease, or ADPKD for short. Understandably, the doctors and my parents wanted to know immediately where it came from, as it is hereditary. And it turned out it came from my dad. I remember being told that as long as my dad and I stayed healthy and exercised and ate well, then we wouldn't really have to worry about it. We'd just have to go in for an ultrasound once every couple of years, and that was it. Our lives were normal, relatively speaking, considering this is my family we're talking about, but normal nonetheless. Growing up, my dad always took me to comic book shops. He has always been a major comic book geek, so I was kind of destined to follow. He's a major DC nut, though in recent years he's learned to admit that Marvel has some really good storylines that are on par with or better than DC's. I was raised on the big two, DC and Marvel, when it came to comics, but nowadays I'm personally more into indie companies. I scour Image for new content or some other obscure comic book company. Comics are most definitely the reason I'm into a lot of the things I'm into today, from anime to manga to D&D, and even my current major, which is digital media production. It's just another form of visual media, which I might have never really gained an eye for in the first place if I didn't start out with comics. My dad and I, throughout my entire life, I guess have really been bonded through geeky hobbies. We'll go to Comic-Con and cosplay as our favorite characters. We'll talk to each other about Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, or more specifically, he'll ask me about how mine is doing. We'll stay up for hours into really early hours in the morning just talking about hypotheticals, ethical dilemmas, philosophical nonsense that to anyone else just sounds like a waste of time, especially since it never really goes anywhere, but that's not the point of the arguments. Really, the main difference between my dad and me is that he's extroverted and I'm very introverted. He is always the one who suggests eating together as a family, or gets weirded out when I mention I haven't spoken to a friend in a week, and no, we're not fighting. He's always that person, that one person in a supermarket who holds up the line because he's talking to a cashier. But then when we walk away, I have to explain to him that everyone there, including the cashier, thought that he was flirting. And he feels so uncomfortable after that because he didn't realize that that's what it looks like. And that's what Dad's always been like to me. He's this 6'5" man who, I'm sure to some people at first glance looks intimidating, but then you ask him how many Robins Batman has, or you just look a little bit down and he'll go up to you and he'll soften his demeanor and he'll try to make you feel better just because it's in his nature to do so. It's only recently that I've started thinking about him as sick. Like I said, I'm the reason why our family even knows that this is in our genetics. And my grandmother has never shown any symptoms, and she's where my father got it from. So we all just kind of assumed that because she has been fine this entire time, we didn't really have to worry about it. But then, thanks to an oversight, no one noticed when something was wrong. It was a million factors, but long story short, something that should have been caught months prior to us actually finding out wasn't. And we were suddenly months behind. that's just how life goes, I guess. Just bad luck. And due to that bad luck, my dad's only hope at living a long, normal life is a kidney transplant. And now, every twitch, every wince, every mild, uncomfortable look on his face, every grimace, even if he trips, that's all I see. Sick. I just want us to not have to worry about that stuff. I want us to get back to some form of normalcy again, even if that normal involves a scar on my father's abdomen, even if that normal involves him being put on a diet that he complains about, but knowing him, he'll obey anyway because it's just in his nature. He'll do it anyway because he knows it's for his own good. I want to cosplay with him again. I want to talk about the latest announcements for the MCU or comics in general, or an adaptation of some sorts. I want to talk with him standing in the kitchen until 2 a.m. and not have to cut it short because we remember he has a doctor's appointment in the morning. I want to go on a walk with him without having to ask him every 5 minutes, is this too much? Do we need to go back? Or hesitate when it comes to suggesting it at all, out of fear that's too much for him. I just want my dad back.